Let's travel back in time, all the way to 415 BCE. Athens was, without a doubt, the superpower of the Greek world. But in one single fateful vote, it kicked off a series of events that would eventually lead to its own ruin. Today, we are digging into that decision, the Sicilian Expedition. So, how does something like this even happen? I mean, really, the story of the Sicilian Expedition isn't just some dusty old history lesson. Nope, it's a timeless warning about ambition, about overconfidence, and, about how even the smartest democracy can be charmed by a beautiful idea that turns out to be deadly. All right, so where did it all begin? Well, it starts with Athens, at the absolute peak of its power. They were dreaming of even bigger and better conquests. But here's the kicker. They were shockingly clueless about the very place they wanted to invade. And that's really the heart of the problem, right here. The sheer, staggering ignorance of it all. To the average Athenian, Sicily was just this vague, far-off island, just kind of sitting there, right for the taking. They had no clue it was this massive place with incredibly powerful cities, or that trying to conquer it would be a war almost as big as the one they were already in against Sparta. Every big fire needs a spark, and for this one, the spark came from a small ally over in Sicily called Augusta. They showed up in Athens with a really smart pitch. They said, help us out, stop the powerful city of Syracuse from taking over the island and maybe threatening you one day, and here's the most important part, we'll pay for the whole thing. And that last promise, that was the real hook. So this request from a far-flung ally kicks off one of the most famous debates in all of history, right out in the open in the Athenian assembly. And what you get is this classic showdown. The old, wise, cautious general going up against the young, flashy superstar politician. First up, you've got Nicias. He's a respected veteran commander, and his message is simple. Whoa, hold on a second. He's urging everyone to be careful, warning them not to get dragged into somebody else's war. He's saying, look, let's focus on the enemies we already have and protect the amazing empire we've built, not risk it all on some wild goose chase. But then, on the other side, you've got this charismatic, flamboyant, and unbelievably persuasive guy named Alcibiades. And he argues the complete opposite. He basically says an empire is like a shark. It has to keep moving forward or it'll die. He says doing nothing, inaction, that's the real threat to Athens, not some bold new adventure. So you can see the choice right here. It really couldn't have been more black and white. You've got Nicias on one side representing security, caution, and playing it safe. And on the other, you've got Alcibiades, standing for risk, expansion, and, of course, glory. The people of Athens listened to both, and they chose glory. They voted for war. But Nicias, he wasn't done yet. Okay, so he lost the debate, but he's got one last trick up his sleeve. He decides to try a little reverse psychology. He gets up in front of the assembly again and basically says, okay, you want to go to Sicily? Fine. But if we're going to do this, we can't mess around. We need a massive fleet. We need thousands and thousands of soldiers, hundreds of ships, huge supply lines. He paints this picture of a ridiculously expensive, gigantic undertaking, hoping the sheer cost and size of it would scare everyone into changing their minds. And this is where things get really wild, because his plan completely, totally backfires. The assembly didn't get scared. They got excited. To them, the bigger the expedition, the more glorious the victory. They absolutely loved the idea of this grand, epic display of Athenian power. Instead of scaring them off, Nicias just made the whole thing sound way more awesome. And so they gave him everything he asked for, and then some. The force they put together was just staggering. We're talking about over 100 triremes. These were the most advanced warships of the day. Over 5,000 elite, heavily armored soldiers called hoplites. Thousands more archers and slingers. This wasn't just an army. It was Athens making a statement to the entire world. So the debate's over, the fleet's built, and the expedition is ready to go. The mood in Athens is just one of supreme confidence, almost arrogance, really. But then, the omens started to turn dark. Just imagine this. You wake up on the morning, you're about to launch the greatest military adventure in your city's history, and you find out that religious statues all across town have been vandalized overnight. This was a huge deal, a profound act of sacrilege. For the deeply religious Athenians, it was a terrifying sign that maybe, just maybe, the gods were not on their side. But despite this terrible omen, the departure went ahead. In the historian, Thucydides describes it as this unbelievable spectacle of power and wealth. But just beneath all that bravado, there was this deep feeling of dread. The people watching from the shore were torn. On the one hand, they were proud of their city's might, but on the other, they had this terrible fear that this long, dangerous voyage was a huge mistake. So the fleet sails across to Italy, and when they finally meet up with their allies from Egesta, the first piece of really bad news drops, and it comes in the form of this number. 30 talents. That's all the money Egesta had. The huge treasury they'd promised, the money that was supposed to pay for this whole war, it was a lie, a scam. Turns out they had tricked the first Athenian inspectors by borrowing gold and silver from their neighbors just to make it look like they were rich. Just like that, the financial foundation for the entire mission was gone. And this news, as you can imagine, caused immediate chaos among the generals. The three guys in command, Nicias, Alcibiades, and a third general, Lamachus, all had completely different ideas about what to do next. Nicias, who never wanted to be there in the first place, basically wanted to do a quick victory lap and go home. Alcibiades wanted to play diplomat and build alliances, and Lamachus, the soldier, was arguing for a bold, immediate, all-out attack on Syracuse. They were totally paralyzed by indecision. And just when you think things couldn't get more dysfunctional, one last critical blow hits the expedition's command structure. While the generals are all arguing, a special state ship called the Salamina shows up from Athens. And let me tell you, it's not bringing good news or reinforcements. It's bringing a summons. Alcibiades, the man whose charisma and passion had literally willed this entire mission into existence, was being recalled. Back in Athens, his political enemies had used the panic over the vandalized statues to accuse him of being part of the whole conspiracy. He was being ordered home to stand trial for his life. And just like that, before a single major battle was even fought, the Sicilian Expedition was already a total mess. Its funding was a lie, its generals were deadlocked, and its biggest champion and most brilliant commander was now a wanted man. The whole thing was left in the hands of Nicias, the one guy who never believed in the mission from the very start. The stage was set for one of the greatest disasters in all of military history.